Hi again, it is Dr. Kim Clover back to chat with you about a very intriguing subject. Today I'm going to be talking to you about adult ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so many of us have heard many things about a childhood ADD or ADHD, and yet here we are in adulthood and we think we can't have it. So today I want to help you look at the possibility of if you need to be either with a coach or a therapist to deal with the symptoms of ADHD, or be assessed and talk with a physician about the possibility of medication. Do you easily get distracted? Are you impulsive? Do you struggle to listen when someone's talking to you? Are you finding that you get frustrated very easily? Does your anger come on with a flash? A lot of these are types of or symptoms of ADHD. Now, ADD was what it was called in the past, and now everybody is labeled ADHD, or there are three different types of diagnoses. You can be diagnosed with an inattention disorder, or a hyperactivity, or a combination of the two when you are diagnosed with ADHD. Now, some of the symptoms, just like I said, are very common. So you have to be careful not to think just because I've got a lot going on with my life and I'm very stressed right now that I've got ADHD. No, this is a persisting problem, and many of us had it in childhood but did not get diagnosed, and here we are in adulthood and we start having troubles. 17 million Americans are affected by this disorder. And what I usually find when people come into me to be diagnosed or assessed, what they're finding is somebody in their life is saying, something's wrong with you. Either their boss saying they can't get the job done, they're not finishing their chores, they're not finishing their assignments, or their partner, their wife or husband is saying, you can't remember anything, you never remember our anniversary, you don't remember schedules, you don't remember appointments. Or maybe it's somebody else in their personal life, a parent, a child, and says, again, you're forgetful, you don't follow through, you never do what you say you're going to do. So some of the symptoms that I would suggest to you that may be a problem, if you really find that you can't finish what you start, that is a problem. You don't finish a chore at home, or you don't finish a task at work, or if you're completely disorganized and lack motivation or procrastinate a lot, those are all symptoms that can fall into the category of inattention. Do you find yourself making careless mistakes? Do you find yourself unable to finish one task before you move on to another? Do you lose things quite often? One of the things that I have found about children with ADHD, but also probably adults, is that their brain is inconsistent. So a child may come home with a 100 on their math test, and the next day they make an F. Or they have a good assignment or a good day in behavior one day at school, and the next day they're having to stand on the wall. So an inconsistent behavior often is what's going on because the brain is not functioning perfectly and consistently. Some people with ADHD, and oftentimes people with ADHD, can hyperfocus. So you may say, well, I can sit and watch or play my video games for 12 hours in a day, but I can't sit and read for 2 minutes. That can also be a symptom of ADHD. Do you find yourself being fidgety or unable to sit still? Can't sit through a movie, can't read a whole book. This is also an opportunity to think, is this ADHD? Could this be hyperactivity? Children that are ADHD, we talk about them bouncing off the walls. For adults, I think their brain bounces off the walls. So if you're thinking constantly about one thing that leads to another, that's the hyperactivity within an adult that is different than the hyperactivity within a child. So finding yourself where you can't sit still or don't want to sit through a meeting or can't sit through church or often get up to do something else while you're watching TV, all of those are symptoms of inability to sit still and be comfortable within a period of time. Impulsivity is another part of ADHD. Do you find yourself interrupting others? Are you able to wait your turn? Do you find that you can't not blurt something out when you're asked a question before it is finished? These are all possibilities of ADHD. Now, if you have 2 or 3 of the things I'm talking about, you probably would not be diagnosed with a disorder. You can be distracted because you're depressed. You can be inattentive because you're worried about something else. You can be hyperactive because you're strung out on sugar. Any number of things can cause some of these symptoms. However, these are part of the symptoms that would make up the diagnosis or the disorder of ADHD. So what do you do about it? Do you just live with it? Do you get medicated for it? Do you do a little bit of both? I would say it depends on the intensity of your problem. If you have a slight disorder, what I would recommend is this book, which I'm going to tag in the comments today, Driven to Distraction. And this is about adult ADHD. And it was written several years back, but it is a great book. And it was written by Edward Hallowell and John Rady. And I would encourage anybody that is thinking that they may have it, click on my link there and go to it and get a book, start reading, decide whether you need to go further. Next, if you decide you need to go further, depending, like I said, on the intensity of the symptoms that you're feeling, decide either to make an appointment to get assessed or make an appointment with a therapist and get some coping skills. So what are the best things that you can do for this disorder? Talk to yourself and talk yourself into finishing things. One of the things we have to say is finish this before you move on to that. So you're making the coffee and you're hearing the dryer buzz. Before you run to the dryer, finish making the coffee. The dryer's not going to blow up. Nothing's going to go away. You can finish making the coffee before you go to the dryer. If you're working on something at work, work to not be multitasking. If you've got the computer open and the phone going and you're looking at your cell phone and you're doing something else on top of that, you're not going to get anything done well and you're not going to finish one thing. So you may know that a lot of people in this lifetime multitask. But for you, if you've got ADHD, do one task at a time and finish it before you move on. So that happens by just talking yourself into it and keep coaching yourself through it. Plan. Make a schedule for the day. Keep a schedule. The worst thing that people with ADHD can do is have no structure or no schedule in their life. Children do better with a schedule and structure, but so do adults who have ADHD. Set an alarm. Set a schedule on your phone that buzzes you to let you know the appointment is at 10. Make sure that you have visual aids. Put notes up on the refrigerator, put notes up in your bathroom, put notes on your computer, wherever you will see it, put visual aids to remind you. Remember, your brain is not dysfunctional, your brain is inconsistent. So you're going to do whatever you can to make yourself more consistent, and being able to see it is going to be helpful. So the visual aids, talking to yourself, finish what you start. Physical activity also helps with keeping a focal point. Physical activity also helps with releasing stress. So all of those things put together could be real good reasons or good ways of coping with ADHD. If you put a lot of these coping skills into practice and you're still having negative comments from your spouse or your child or your employer, go get tested. Don't forget, try the book. I do assessments at my office. If you're in my area, look us up. Clover Counseling Services. Give me a call. Would love to sit down with you and chat. But in the meantime, I hope these have been helpful. These tips and this information has been helpful. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I wish you well. Have a good one.